Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to It Takes a Museum, Discovery Place's award-winning Year of the Engineer program. This is our first webinar for 2019, and with the help of GSCA Member Services Committee, we'll be hosting more webinars throughout the year. I'm Tammy Selden, GSCA's Executive Director, and I'm joined today by Kelly Germain, GSCA's Director of Membership and Communications.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. A few logistics for the day. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to participants and all GSCA members soon. It will also be available online in the Member Center of the GSCA website. Attendee phones and computer mics are muted, but we do welcome questions, and you can submit those by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You can submit questions at any time during the webinar, but we're going to wait until the end of the presentation to answer those. Our presenter today is Joni Vandenberg Phillip, who is Chief Operating Officer at Discovery Place in Charlotte, North Carolina. Joni is a multi-talented leader with over 34 years of experience in management, exhibit development, and educational programs at Discovery Place. She has built a strong organization that delivers results by aligning strategic vision with operational goals and with substantial focus on quality of programs, exhibits, theaters, facilities, customer satisfaction, relationship management, and return on investment. Today, Joni will be sharing how Discovery Place's divisions all work together to create their Year of the Engineer program, which won the GSCA 2018 Achievement Award for Best Educational Program. And now, here's Joni.
Share. Okay, can everybody see? Tammy, can you see?
I can see it.
Okay. To all of you technology people out there, this is my first webinar that I'm presenting. All right, so dream big, engineering our own world. So I went back to Charlotte. This was beginning of August. And I was sitting at our senior team meeting, which is most of the chiefs in our organization. I said, you know, I watched this film and I really think we need to do something big about this. I think we need to declare it the Year of the Engineer, and we need to put the whole company behind it. Everybody agreed, and so I launched the first meeting, which It Takes a Museum. And in that museum, when I said the whole museum had to get behind it, the whole museum got behind it. So our education department, our exhibitions department, we have a department of community engagement, we have a whole other building that does teacher professional development, who, just as an aside, they actually developed the ed guide for Dream Big. Our marketing department, our development, fundraising department, our sales department, human resources, finance, and volunteers. So this truly was a cross division effort. So we set really big goals. We were talking, I'm one of those, I'm a big tagline person. So it was going to be, we were going to do, utilize 250 engineers, providing 2,500 discrete experiences that would engage over 250,000 guests. And so there was a lot of nervousness about that at first, because you know, here I am, I'm alliterating with ease and putting numbers on it. And about a week later, the finance and the marketing person and I got together and like, can we really make these goals? And we try to kind of portion out what types of programming, what we would do to be able to hit these numbers. So the first thing we did was we determined that the Year of the Engineer, we were going to go, we were not going to open this when the film opened. If I'm not mistaken, the film opened in February, the following February. We were going to launch this in August. And so what we did was we positioned a number of things for it all to kind of launch and look at tent poles, activities all throughout the year to sustain it. So our first determination was the Year of the Engineer was going to be a school year from August through June. The next thing we did was, and we haven't done this in a number of years, but we went to the mayor and we wanted to have a proclamation. And so the mayor drew up a proclamation for Charlotte, determining it was the Year of the Engineer. And in the middle of this picture, the lady in the white coat, very tall in the front, was our mayor, Jennifer Roberts. So what we did was we tried to put together a number of events and programs. So when we debuted and kicked this off, the first thing we did was we debuted the movie Dream Big in the IMAX. And we also paired this with the opening of a new area in our museum that we had totally redone. It just so happened to be on the 3rd level right at the IMAX entrance. So we redid about 5,000 square feet area up on the 3rd floor right outside the IMAX exit. And we did an exhibit called Think It Up, which was the second iteration of a make design exhibition we had done. And the new thing was we put in a 2,000 square foot lab where you could go even deeper in design using, saws and laser cutters and things like that. So we launched that in August with the exhibition. As you can see in the picture here, you'll see this is one. We actually have 3 entrances into our museum. And so all of the admissions desks all had, we ended up coming up with our own logo and brand for the Year of the Engineer. And then the little circles that you see were each individual badges. And so all this played through all of the activities that we did throughout the year. The second major event that happened was we do a mini maker fair, which is a large event with over 100 exhibitors, and it's both an indoor and an outdoor. We close off the main street in front of Discovery Place. And then the third thing we did was in November, we opened up a 5,000 square foot traveling exhibition, Da Vinci's Machines. Sorry, my phone. Originally, that was not going to be our traveling exhibit. We hadn't finalized it, but when we knew we were doing this, we juggled the schedule and brought this in. And this is the exhibition from Florence, Italy, and it's Leonardo's inventions have been brought to life. So they are built using materials that would only have been available during Leonardo's time with techniques. And so each one of these have been proved out also against where he wrote in the codexes. So it was a great marriage with the engineering and Dream Big. So here's the space. This was our maker lab, our thinker space, where we do a lot more in-depth activities. This is inside this lab. It is always facilitated. There are always people there. Outside the lab, still in the lab. Outside the lab is Thinker Space, which is about roughly 3,700 square foot exhibition. Out here, the experiences are non-facilitated. We'll have staff that are working the floor, but it is much more at a level where people can embrace and go at their own pace. And that's part of Think It Up there, you can see. The curved wall that you see right here, this is the exterior of the IMAX Dome Theater. So prior to opening this exhibit up, you guys, this was like the craziest space in our museum. You would come across from the parking deck and enter here, and there was nothing here but meeting rooms. And so it was almost like a crazy, like people would come in, it's like, where am I? You literally had to go down to the first level to enter the building. And so now, with the opening of this exhibition, right at the end of this, we have our membership concierge where members can come in and check in. Okay, here is a picture from the Da Vinci exhibition. I can't say enough good things about this exhibit. If any of you are looking for something to pair with the movie. So aside from that, we also did, aside from the film, and then we had the opening of a new exhibit and a lab. We also then did signature events and programs. And so December through March, these are some of the signature events that we did. We did a Girls' Day Out event, Discovery After Dark, you all know probably as camp-ins or stuff when people come in and spend the night. We really find focused with girls during this initiative because we had just that year launched our girls program. So we did a lot of intensive activities with girl groups. In April, our Science and Society event, which is you bring in a main speaker, that was devoted towards Year of the Engineer. In June, our celebration, we did Tinkerfest, which I don't know if a number of you know this. We have our main science museum, which is around 200,000 square feet. It's 2 blocks right in Uptown Charlotte. We also have a children's museum that we opened about 15 minutes from here that is a science children's museum. It's about 25,000 square feet. And so in June, we did a whole event for the itty bitties called Tinkerfest. And then at the very end of June, we did a celebration event. We had a number of sponsors that came on board for this exhibit like we haven't seen in a number of years. I think all total in cash sponsorships, not in kind, but in cash, we had over $700,000. People signed up. Construction company was the sponsor of the film at $25,000. We had sponsors for the labs and sponsors for the events. And I think, and my development department will say this, the reason why it was so successful in garnering fundraising dollars was because it was a huge sustained effort and a big mess, not just a film. We really interwove all of our activities so that there was a really laser focus on engineering for the year. And then in July, we did a final report. And so for all of you, when we do some major, I hate to use the term blockbuster exhibitions, but when you think of things like Body Worlds or Dead Sea Scrolls, we produce the museum a final report that gives all the numbers, the activities, as well as the fundraising dollars. And we also work with our chamber and do economic impact for the city. And so this was the first time we produced a final report on a film and activities, which was very successful. And that was given also to all of our partners, both our fundraising partners who actually gave dollars, but we had an even greater pool of partners that actually worked with us in our programming. An example you see before you is our brochure we had at the desk for the year that outlined the whole program for the year and some of the signature events. And then you can see these badges. We also developed classes that went with this film. So there was very specific classes that schools could take. Going curriculum, I think it was kindergarten through high school that we had classes that were offered in workshops and camps. A big component of this was our Year of the Engineer Saturdays. So we looked at having 3 Saturdays a month, starting in August, going all the way through June. And so our slogan was Saturdays are for solving problems. So the first Saturday of the month was an engineer in residence. And the engineers, this was really targeted at working with teachers and putting them together with engineers, talk about how to, and to learn about how to translate some of the concepts or processes into their classroom through activities. And because there was such a rich educational portfolio that was developed for Dream Big, the actual IMAX movie, one of the largest educational components I think I've ever seen, including exhibitions. There was a lot of rich material in there that we could bring in actual engineers with different disciplines to work with teachers. The second Saturday of the month were TakeOver Saturdays. And TakeOver Saturdays where we worked with architectural firms, engineering firms, our city engineering department, and they each took a Saturday and all of their teams would come down and take over the museum. In a lot of cases, they came up with the activities. For some of the smaller firms, we worked with them to help them with activities to come up with it. And there might've been a couple different groups that might take over a Saturday if you had smaller firms. I'm gonna show you a video in just a moment. We had got some of the greatest, strongest partners in our takeover with all these people coming in, and a lot of people have never been in our museum. And hence from that, we have continued those relationships with those partners and other programming and engineering activities this year. This third Saturday of the month was a big design challenge. And so families could come in and sign up to do the big design challenge that was hosted that day. Okay, so I'm now gonna click on a video. We actually didn't produce this. I actually found out one of the design, it's an architecture and engineering firm. They actually produced this video and we found out about it. I was like, hey, can I have a copy of that? So let me see if I can get this video going.
Discovery Place is a place of wonder. It's a place of scientific learning, and we want kids to explore scientific habits of mind. but we're not experts at everything. And so we had to rely on your team as the experts in engineering and architecture to come in and share that with our community. Little is officially our Year of the Engineer partner, but more importantly, we are partners in educating Charlotte. What surprised me most about your takeover day was the sheer number of activities you all had. By far, the most engaging takeover we have had for this entire initiative. And I was really impressed at the level of engagement from all of the volunteers.
I was really impressed that they had assembled all the materials. Everybody was really prepared, knew what they were doing. They were very invested on helping kids, parents get involved with each activity. And I think that is something that was infectious to the families that came. You can give them all kinds of theory and posit explanations, but that's not going to stick with them. Doing other physical science applications that you can put together, it's a lot more meaningful to kids. There were 2 separate families that asked if you guys do this every weekend. I don't think they're used to anything on this size and scope, so it was a treat for them as well as us.
To date, we have had almost 1,800 programs delivered as a part of this initiative, and we've worked with 356 engineers, so thank you to you all for adding to that number, and we've served approximately 177,000 visitors.
Year of the Engineer goes beyond our wall. That there are real companies here in Charlotte that are very invested in not only their work, but getting the next generation of engineers involved.
Okay, so you can see, I mean, they were vested enough that they were shooting video during the whole day. It was amazing because not only did they have their actual engineers, but they had a lot of their kids and interns that came out. When that video was shot, I want to say we were a little bit past, that would happen, I think, in January. So a little bit past the halfway mark for our Year of the Engineer. Another program that we did was, I was telling you all about our Maker Fair. And so here is a BattleBot contest happening during the Maker Fair. And these are some of the pictures from our festivals and event days. And I'm just partial to the fire-breathing pumpkin. Always a big hit here at the museum, fire. All right, so the results for this. We exceeded, thanks be to God, we exceeded our projections, or at least made our projections. We involved 426 engineers providing 2,816 experiences, and we engaged over 268,000 people. I added a 4th E, exceeded sponsorship, because we at that point did not have a revenue goal as far as we had our attendance goals, but we did not have an actual sponsorship goal. And so we learned a lot about that we needed to include that in whenever we do. We do that when we do large exhibitions, but doing some type of a sustained event like that. I'd like to add a 5th E, our volunteer director, who coordinated a lot of the engineers. Met an engineer is dating them, probably going to get married. So we might have had a 5th E there. So last but not least, this effort was aligned with our strategic priorities. So 4 years ago, we implemented our strategic priorities for the next 5 years, and the 3 buckets on our strategic priorities are connect children and youth with their futures. This so squarely fits under that bucket. I don't even have to explain it. Engage communities in science, technology, nature, so that we can develop a science literate community. Obviously, especially when you looked at the takeovers, and I think our challenge days where families came together. And I shouldn't even say families, we also have an adult night, couple of adult nights that were very focused on engineering and were huge hits. And then our 3rd strategic priority is to create a financially sustainable business that is thriving as a philanthropic organization, providing the foundation for innovation and sustained business growth over time. And this was financially sustainable. And it was a great marriage of philanthropic dollars when I was talking about sponsorship, $700,000 in that, as well as the in-kind, which we did not put a number to, but could be equally as huge when you looked at the personal capital of people volunteering in our community to make this effort so successful. And I think with that, I think that's my last slide. Oh, it's priceless. New partners and programs were developed. We do have a number of the engineers and architects. They are continuing as volunteers. We received incredible positive press and articles throughout the whole year. Our classes that we developed and our lab unit. So we have 5 labs that are open from the minute we open the door to the minute we close. Those lab, like I showed you, that make lab upstairs, they're always staffed. And so the classes, the labs that we developed for the Year of the Engineer, we are still using, and the film continues to be offered. And then it had a positive impact that a sustained effort produces. And when I say that, I mean our whole museum, to have all departments equally vested in making these goals and making this a year was something that I don't think well, I can say this, we've never done that on a programming initiative where we had all of the museum, all of corporate vested in it. We've certainly done that with huge exhibitions, like I was saying, Dead Sea Scrolls. But probably in the last 10, 12 years, we haven't had something as big where everybody worked together. And it was really good because it put a lot of people together that probably never really worked together. And that was great because then you were harnessing their creativity. And I really do think that is the end. Okay.
Joni, thanks. I want to suggest that you leave your PowerPoint open because some of the questions we may be getting might need to refer back.
Okay.
But this is Tammy again. I just want to say thank you so much. This is really an exciting initiative to see. One of the best programs I've seen, Science Center or Museum, one of our members, put throughout their museum. One of the questions that's come in, and my question also is, how did you get everyone to rally around this? I mean, obviously it had to come from the top, right? I mean, I know you've talked a little bit about that, but can you just talk a little bit more about how you got the leadership and everyone so involved behind it?
So there were a couple things. Number one, I brought it before the senior team, of which I sit on. And my counterpoint at that point was that position was open. So our head of learning experiences was an open position for 15 months. So that whole team reported up underneath me. So basically, guys, at that point when I launched this, we had 206 people in our company and 168 of them reported somehow or other underneath me. Okay. So I could build a mass there. I had discussions when I came back before I had the actual meeting at the senior team because I was so excited. And McGilvery-Freeman had just done such a great job with this film. The emotional story in here and Avery Bang and everything that went into it was pretty great working material. So right off the bat, I had the meeting before the meeting. So I, talked to our marketing person. I talked to our development person and talked to them about the movie. I was covering exhibits, education, and operations. I was representing that. HR was excited about it because that was a new thing they could talk about, especially because also volunteer services falls up under HR. And so there would be a huge component with these engineers for volunteers. So they really were excited about it. Then we talked about it at the meeting and everybody said, let's do it. And so I convened both this for the first meeting, the senior representatives, the senior leadership, along with their directors of their departments. So that there was in that initial meeting, there's kind of a show of solidarity. This is something we're all vested in. And then all throughout this process, all of us, the chiefs were pretty, especially the chief advancement officer, the chief marketing officer, and then myself, the chief operating officer. We were all really vested in, and we try to make each of those monthly meetings so that we were there as a resource and could get the resources going for them. I know in a lot of museums, even especially large institutions, sometimes the bureaucracy just gets in the way, right? You've got a lot of different people in here and who's doing what. And so what I tried to do with this project was that we were there to get whatever resources that were needed to the directors and the boots on the ground to make it happen. And so also keeping those senior leadership involved, and of course having periodic report outs to our CEO. And our CFO, which I don't know how y'all CFOs are, but my CFO is amazing and she loves these things. So she was there at a lot of meetings just because she was very interested in it. And we had a track. There was a lot of things like when we said we were going to meet these goals, everybody has a different interpretation of numbers. And so I wanted finance to be there, who's usually like the strictest, like, let's put the parameters. What counts as an experience? How long is that experience? What counts XYZ and how are we going to track it? So finance really helped us implement a tracking system with the discipline that you normally see for dollars. We had that kind of discipline in the tracking so that we could know where we were in our goals and where we need to put the foot on the pedal. And that's how it went. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of great questions in, so folks, please feel free to continue asking. And Joni, you're so engaging with your answers. I just want to listen to you talk about it.
Okay. Okay, I twisted some arms, all right? I cried, all right?
Yeah. Well, that does help, but I think I heard you say that you felt like it was good content, right? You had seen it as a rough cut.
Yeah, it was amazing content. It was amazing content.
I'm just wondering
one other thing, the thing that struck me, y'all, everybody, right? Everybody and their brother, we're all in science museums, right? And now everybody and their brother is all big on STEM, right? And they got to find that STEM. Well, one of the statistics that really hit me was when we were out at Laguna Beach, they had an engineer who was speaking and talking about the initial STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I think it was like over 70% of the public knows what S stands for. Science. And it was less than, I think, 35% than of people who could say what E represented. That was startling to me. I was like, wow. So, there was real impetus there. I don't know about your areas of the countries or where you live. Here in North Carolina, where I am in the USA, North Carolina, South Carolina, there's a huge problem, and I'm sure in a lot of your areas, on skills for advanced manufacturing. That's not a 4-year engineering degree, but that's a 2-year degree, and those are engineering skills. So we are very looking at big gaps in the pipeline for those jobs. So that was another impetus for this, to expose all different careers in the field.
Just to give you an idea, Joni and other participants, we have folks from Tennessee, from Iowa, Pittsburgh, the Marbles here in Raleigh, Moody Gardens, Science Center of Iowa, the Fleet, let's see, the Tech. So I just wanted to give you an idea. Museum of Discovery and Science in Fort Lauderdale, which, just as a side note, I was there last week and I happened to see a group of teachers also doing some of the similar exercises you were doing. It's just interesting. So one of the comments that has come in is, love the TakeOver Saturdays. Did your staff reach out to the engineering and architecture firms to schedule the TakeOver Saturdays? And did you charge the firms to participate in those events?
Our staff reached out. We kind of made a list. There were a couple that approached us, had heard of it. No, we did not charge for it. I was a little scared about the takeovers, but I remember, again, in Laguna, I think it was the head of ACE, was saying about how engineers would come out and Birmingham. I am blanking. Birmingham, Alabama.
Amy Templeton? Are you trying to remember?
The gentleman, the director of...
Tim Ritchie?
No.
Well, he was...
The IMAX, the head of the IMAX. Gosh, he's probably on this call, and I'm abjectly apologizing that I'm having a blank on a name, was telling me that they did for Engineering Week, how they would do these big festivals, and all these engineers would come out, and he kept saying, look, if there's one set of volunteers that will come out and be there, it's these engineers. And that gave me confidence when we were talking about these takeover days, And the professionals that were there from the engineering societies were saying the same thing, that we would have a volunteer cadre, that if somebody said they were going to come and their company was going to take over, that they would follow through. And they did. They were amazingly committed people, all excited to give their team members time to interact with people and show what they do. So we did reach out, but we did not pay. We did not charge, I should say.
Greg Sanford is who I think you were trying
Greg
to.
Sanford, yes. I'm so sorry, Greg.
He'll
I'm the
forgive
worst.
you.
I'm on the spot under pressure. The other thing was with them. Now, I will say this: we had some of our, which was fabulous from the development standpoint. We had a number of companies who had financially became sponsors in the program I was talking about, who then came to us and said, we want our teams involved. So we had a lot of the teams that had financially given money, or firms, also had their own takeover days. So that was even better, right? Because you think about, the three things: time, treasure, and talent. And we got all three in a lot of firms.
That's amazing, Joni. A question that's come in is from Moody Gardens, is curious to know how large your community engagement department is and how it functions.
Well, let me say something. Our community engagement department had just started, and it's a body of one. And so now, through some grants in the last year and a half, you saw Charla. And so Charla had moved into that role of a community engagement. And so we now have two, we have another position, a manager of community engagement, that I heard is starting February 11th. So we've gotten some funding for it. And then another division under, I shouldn't say division, program underneath Charla is our Girls in STEM initiative. And so we have a person there, Maggie. So I'd say they, once this person comes on in February, there'll be an army of three. However, those two positions, Girls in STEM and the manager, are all grant and sponsorship funded. And then our Charlotte, who's the director, is in our operational budget. And I'll be happy on any of this afterwards. Tammy, I'm sure, can share my contact information. I'll be happy if anybody has questions or wants to meet Charlotte for community engagement and have a, I'll be happy to introduce and hook them up so she can tell you what goes on in her program. If you all have any have questions about any of the classes or lab units that we did or programs, if you can, Tammy will give you my contact information. I'll be happy to put you with the people who developed it or send you a copy or whatever. That's what I love about our field. We are very, very collegial and help each other out, and we don't always all have to reinvent the wheel 500 times.
I agree. It's really a fantastic community we serve, and it's really the coolest thing ever. Did you have any challenges getting staff on board? I mean, I know it helps to manage half of the staff of the museum, but were there any challenges getting staff excited or engaged in doing this? I've heard so many, cases where science centers are so siloed, not just science centers, museums in general are siloed. Right. Was there any challenges with that or any getting staff on board?
So that's kind of a two-pronged question. People were excited about it. And it's not even museums. I think I in my years of being in the business, and I have brothers that are all in for-profit, and I laugh at how it's the same things, right? What are the two things that people complain about? Silos and communication, right? So we're always all trying to tilt towards that and be better. I didn't have any problem with people being excited about it, but I had the usual management problems that you probably see in any project, right? You've got those that are gung-ho and going, and then you've got the others that you like, look, here's your deadline. So I don't know that it was so much about the actual project as the usual, right? We all have teams where you have what I would consider early adopters, those who are like, okay, this is great, and come with 50 different things. And we all in our management, or maybe I do, maybe you all don't, but have some people that are a little bit not as good on their deadlines and coming through. So on that, we handled it, and everybody pulled their boat. I would say by and large, the majority of the people were excited about it, and it gave a focus. I don't know if other museums experience this. This happens at my museum. we are forever saying, what don't we say no to, right? We are all doing too much. We're mile wide and inch deep. And I don't think that's just here at my museum. I think that's kind of in our field because we're all very passionate individuals and mission oriented. This actually gave a rallying cry that everybody could really hang around it, and gave some discipline to it, and not, okay, this week it's this and next week it's this, and oh wow, somebody has this great idea or development, like, hey, there's a funder for this. So this actually gave us a framework to hang together. Now, of course, when you have success like that, you'll have board members like, what's our next year? You know? And so I was like, it's not always going to be a year of. It's when the right things come together to make that, right? If you start forcing it with other things, and I think you dilute it. But I think this subject matter with this film, the exhibits that are out there, and the programming is like the perfect storm. It brings it all together. So I hope that answered your question, Dan.
I think so. And I'm reading these questions as they're coming in.
Okay.
We're getting a lot of great questions. So one is, what if any challenges did you have face when you reached out and inspiring engagement with local engineering firms for TakeOver Saturdays? And I can't remember if you had addressed that or not.
It depended on the firm, right? So Little, the one that had that video, was like amazing, right? They're coming up with 20 million ideas. And so what we said was we would help them, any of the engineering firms, we would work with them on the activities. We didn't want that to be a stumbling block, because you have some that were like, I want to be involved, but I'm not really sure what I can tell you my background and what we do, but I don't know that I can present it in a way that people understand it. So you had some firms or some groups of people that our team worked very closely with them on brainstorming the activities and helping them. You had others that were like, they were running the ideas, like Little, like they built the shake table. They engineered it, built it, and brought it. They had ideas. So there was different ranges of things. I have a very strong education staff here, as well as an exhibit staff. So we had expertise in our areas that we could really help out some of the smaller firms that might have felt unsure. I'll tell you, I had one firm that's advanced manufacturing, and actually it was my husband who connected me with them, and they really wanted to be a part of it. They're one of the firms that are like really scared about where is our workforce coming from. They're a firm that is actually at a community college, I found out, built a lab with CNC machines and all that, and helped teach those programs, but they had never done anything with children. So they were all excited. It was up their alley, but they were unsure as to the activities, because we're all hands-on, right? We just don't want to show like, here is what we're building. So our team worked pretty closely with them to help them develop what I would call audience, not just age relevant, but audience relevant types of activities. So it was kind of all over the map. I will say this, Charla, who you saw on the video, was our main point person who coordinated the TakeOver Saturdays. We had another team member who was the point person who coordinated the the design challenges. That was from our Make Lab upstairs. And then the engineer residence program, that was really driven by our professional development team who handle that. So some of those signature type things, it's good to have like a point person. So you have the same person out there delivering the same information, A, or B, like with the takeover saying, it'd be good to take this company or this firm or this city department and put them together with this and take over a Saturday. So I would highly recommend having point people for your efforts. It maximizes it and streamlines communication.
That makes total sense. One of the questions is, did you charge for the lab classes, or were they included with the admission costs?
The lab, the school classes have a charge to them, right? We have over 150 lab classes that we offer every year. So those had a fee to them, just like our other classes.
And so was there a capacity?
Yes. I mean, there's defined times that they can be in, but for a moment to explain our labs. And if you want to go on well, you saw a picture of one of them. Our labs are open and operating from the minute we open to the minute we close, but they operate in two modes. And so They operate in a school class mode, which generally happens Monday through Friday, 9 to 2, with school classes, September through May. And then the second way that they operate is open to the public. And so our labs, I'm going to use the word unit or stage set, but all of our labs every 2 months do a completely different unit. So if I was down in our Explore More Stuff lab, which is more physics and engineering, it might be aerodynamics for 2 months, and then the next 2 months it might be robotics, the next 2 months it might be building. And then we also, with those labs for our public, what I call stage sets, we partner with companies. So the way these labs operate is that probably, if you looked at 363 days a year and our operating hours, probably 25% of the time is operating in a class mode, and 75% of the time is operating in a public mode. And in a public mode means, with those different stage sets, which is usually 16 to 18 stages, that comes with your price in the door. So we have 3D, they could be 3D printing, and we have 5 labs. We have a bio, Explore More Me, which is human sciences. We have Explore More Life, which is biology. So that's the tanks and aquariums. Explore More Stuff, which is physics and engineering. We have a collections lab, which is, we have objects in our natural history collection that's set up in a lab that people can interact with. And then the last lab that we just brought online was the Thinker Space, which was that lab.
I've shared the link to your labs on our chat in the chat area. We have a couple of really good questions still. I hope we can still keep a little bit more of your time here. One of the questions that came in is, did the Year of the Engineer help build ticket sales for Dream Big? And was that a goal?
It did help build ticket sales. It was a goal. It wasn't a specific goal, like we want X amount of tickets sold for the Year of the Engineer, because we try to look at different levels of entry for people. And right now, you know what, guys, because the Year of the Engineer ended last June. So in museum years, that's like 10 years ago. So I can't remember the exact numbers, but I can get some of those for you. It was a good year with our attendance and our school attendance. It really also, aside from the weekends, it really resonated with our school attendance for classes and film, because it seems like that is an area, just like science, engineering is an area that some teachers struggle with in incorporating into their daily lesson plans.
I can imagine. One of the questions that came in is, I'm curious what your Girls' Day Out program looked like.
Oh gosh. Our Girls' Day Out program, we did one program with ACE and Mary Jane Dodge to prototype activities. So there was one of those, and then we did our own, and it's usually a whole day. And girls come in and they do activities. They also saw the film. We also bring in actual female presenters. One of our Girls' Day Out, if I'm not mistaken, y'all can't hold me to this because my memory's not that good, I think one of the Girls' Day Out, we had Avery Bang come in for one of them. Some of the others, it's local engineers who we've worked with, who work with the girls. And it's usually, like, if I'm not mistaken, like from 10 to 4, I think, is the whole day. I have to get that from Maggie, though. She's our Girls in STEM.
Just a couple more questions. Were there any major challenges that came up during the year? Any big stumbling blocks or anything that you had to address or change course?
There was one, and it was with the engineer in residence program, because the main engineer who we were working with, who was going to help pull together the other engineers and working with the school, something happened with them like a third of the way into the program. So we had to scramble and get somebody else to fulfill that, to help the coordination of that, but it came off. I don't know. There was nothing that derailed it, or I'd remember that. I think it's just the normal stuff that we all do. Like, do you have enough staff? How are you, somebody called in sick. How are you going to cover that Saturday? Or I think there was a last minute bobble with one of the takeover days. But then we found another team that switched with them, but nothing that really derailed or huge. Let me say this, nothing different from the ordinary running of programs and things in your operations that you kind of encounter on a weekly basis. I do have a saying here, every day is a day of discovery with Discovery Place. Some of those discoveries are great and some of those are like, but nothing that was out of the ordinary with this program.
I think it's amazing that the momentum was able to be kept throughout the year. That's really a testament to the planning that went into it and the depth, and also the buy-in from the entire staff. I mean, that's really huge.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a personal question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I would ask this of all of our members, but I'm wondering if there's broad topics, and I'm not asking for specific films or films that you've seen, but I'm wondering if there are broad topics that we could suggest to our producers to consider that would lend itself to something like this. I mean, I know sometimes things come up, like you said, you saw Rough Cut and this kind of came to your, and you can't do the year of every year.
Right.
But I'm just wondering if there are other topics that
Here's one. I've been beating the band at every GSA that I think producers probably don't want to hear me say it anymore. It was shocking to me. And you all know my involvement with GSA has really been, I've been here for a gazillion years, and in my early career I used to write ed guides. IMAX came underneath me, I think 5 years ago. So really kind of understanding and learning the business of it. I was shocked when I brought Body Worlds back and there was no new movie on humans other than the human body, which I'm not saying is not a good film. It is a great film, but I was just like, really? I got to bring this back a third time. And I think that is a huge, and not just because I'm biased, because that happens to be my background, anatomy phys, but something on the human body. And when I say human body, I mean like some of the most amazing advances that are happening right now in science, in neuroscience, in transmitters, genetics. Now we're looking at evolution, thinking, it's not maybe like Darwin's every 50 years something changes. It's you've got retrovirus that might play a role. I mean, there are so many things in that one area that are so cross discipline. Science is not like, okay, here's physics, here's science, here's engineering, here's molecular biology. The way science is practiced now, or I should say practice in its applications, is in the interweaving of these disciplines. And I would love to see a new movie, because if something like that came out, not only would that be a great thing to do a whole shtick around, which could, for I don't know about other museums, but for us, it could be huge, with your hospital partners and different things like that. That's a type of film I would keep in my library, like Dream Big. So Dream Big, even though the year of the engineer is over with, we have packages that our salespeople package, like Tuesdays in the morning. Like every Tuesday is engineering day, and you can take these labs classes and then take this film. And the thing is, I don't know if in other museums, but some of our teachers here, barring curriculum changes, they come to rely yearly on certain things. And so something to do with physiology, genetics, neurosciences, any of that, I think we could build into something that after the sustained event would then go into our normal rotation of a package that we offer. I'd be happy to hear from anybody else if they think of other sciences on it.
I really appreciate that. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I knew you could handle it. I think one of the important things that the GSCA focuses on is all of the links in our chain have to be strong in order for our industry to thrive and survive. And so it's really important to have this, constant feedback and loop continuing between theaters and producers and distributors and suppliers. So that's the goal that GSCA as an organization has, to continue, allowing that feedback loop to, remain open.
Right. I also think through GSCA, we could do alliances, right? Let's say, I'll give an example. We're very good with film companies that come out with like, here's a movie, here's the educational component. I think on our end, you know, what we could do is harness 2 or 3 institutions to come together and say, hey, this is a drive I'm going to do. I'll take the summer camps, you take the programs, you take the floor demos. And as museums, we pull together to develop this of how we're going to roll it out in our museums and then share it so that GSCA, our website, becomes more the marketplace. Or I could put up there, look, here are 2 classes that worked really well. Here they are. Here's the supply list. Here are the outcomes. Here are everything. And then maybe just like they do in Aztec, you know, maybe there's a circle, right? Nobody within 150 miles if you could replicate, because then you are in a little bit of a competitive nature there. But I don't think that's really a whole lot in a lot of the markets. I might be speaking different. I know probably like Boston, they have 2 theaters. So that might be a little bit different, and a very museum rich city. But I think there's more that we could be leveraging between ourselves because resources are short. And if you know something's proven, or you're working together, then you can leverage that. And I think GSCA could be that backbone in that marketplace. When I say marketplace, meaning sweat equity, not fees.
I can't agree with you more. And that's exactly the type of leadership we're looking for and ideas. And, you know, I'm so pleased, Joni, that you've joined our board. So thank you very much. Just one last comment we've just gotten is we'd love to see some giant screen films incorporate aspects of physics, since we can do a lot of tie-in classes and programming that would relate. Extreme sports could have a lot of physics tie-ins. Many of the films seem to be on nature topics. So I thought that was a really good comment.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I know we're coming close to the end of our time here. I want to just thank you so much, Joni, for participating today. Sharing Discovery Places program has really been a huge, you know, it's really interesting to hear about it. And I think a lot of science centers and museums can take this type of opportunity and implement it at their own institutions. We have filmed, or we have captured this webinar, then we'll be sharing it within the next couple of days, and it'll be available on the Member Center at the GSCA website. We'd also like to encourage all of our members to submit your own education programs and marketing campaigns for award considerations, and you'll see a link on this screen where you can submit those. Or you can visit the GSCA awards page on our website. Submissions for this year are due June 28th. Please also email your feedback about this webinar and suggestions for future webinars. You can email me at tammy@giantscreencinema.com. And I will also share, as Joni's so graciously offered, her contact information if you have questions or comments for her. You can either send them to me and I'll forward them on to her, or send them to her directly. But Joni, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And thank you to McGillivray Freeman for the film. And, you know, I'm really pleased to have been able to participate on today's webinar. It was so really inspirational to learn about the program that you've put together. And I'm really proud to be you know, part of this. So thank you so much, Joni. I hope everyone has a great day, and please, you know, share your feedback with us. We really value that. And thank you to Kelly Germain and everybody for participating on GSCA communities or committees and task force. It's really important that you get involved so we can learn more from all of us. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Tammy. Thanks,
Take care.
Kelly. Bye-bye.